Hello YouTube, Sean Bradley here, and today I will be reviewing The Dark Tower, based on the best-selling series of novels by author Stephen King. The plot follows 11-year-old Jake Chambers, played by Tom Taylor, a boy who is plagued with visions about the Dark Tower, a mythical structure that protects all realities, located in a parallel post-apocalyptic world known as Midworld. His frequent visions include the character of Roland Deschain, played by Idris Elba, who is also known to many as the Gunslinger, who fights to protect the tower from falling and to seek revenge against Walter Paddock, aka the Man in Black, played by Matthew McConaughey, for killing Roland's father. Walter and his minions have been kidnapping psychic children and are forcing them to destroy the tower that is holding the universes together. However, when Jake steps into Midworld and teams up with Roland, him and Roland become the main target of Walter's pursuit to use Jake's psychic ability of shining to topple the tower. So going into this film, I had heard many negative reviews from critics and people on Twitter, and in my opinion, it was fine. Not good, but fine. This is the fifth feature film from Danish filmmaker Nikolaj Arcel, who had made his debut in 2004 with the political thriller King's Game, winning him the Robert Award for Best Director by the Danish Film Academy, before following it up with Island of Lost Souls in 2007 and the 2010 generational comedy film Truth About Men. His previous film was 2012's A Royal Affair, which was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film at the 85th Academy Awards, but lost to Michael Haneke's Amour. After the international breakthrough of A Royal Affair, Arcel had moved to Hollywood, where The Dark Tower became his most recent film, which he will follow up with a live-action version of the DC comic Fables for Warner Bros. This is the only one of his directorial efforts that I have seen, so I have nothing to compare it to. I have seen the 2009 foreign language version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo that Arcel was a screenwriter on. I am also a fan of films that have been adapted from Stephen King's novels ever since Tommy Lee Wallace's 1990 TV adaptation of It. I've not seen any other of King's TV adaptations apart from It and the 2002 TV remake of Carrie, directed by David Carson. However, I have seen many other of King's movies and watched all the nostalgia critic reviews of King's TV and movie adaptations, but I have loved The Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, the original versions of The Shining and Carrie. I even liked Thinner and Secret Window. However, King has become more relevant in this day and age with some cinematic misfires such as Cell and some television adaptations of Under the Dome, 11/22/63, and a television miniseries adaptation of The Mist, which was previously adapted into a film in 2007 by Frank Darabont. And not to mention the new film adaptations of Carrie and It. This film is a bit muddled. The plot has been a bit confusing at times. I have also read the first book in the Dark Tower series, that being The Gunslinger. However, it was nearly 9 years ago since I had read that book, and I only read it once, and even at the age of 14, even I couldn't make sense of the book or its premise. Now, the acting in this film is okay, nothing Oscar-worthy. Idris Elba does okay as the Gunslinger, Matthew McConaughey does good as Walter Paddock. However, Tom Taylor is not that good. There are times where you can sympathise with him. However, some of his line readings do tend to fall flat and become monotonous. The Dark Tower tends to have some of those tropes that Stephen King would normally have in his stories. Jake lost his father prior to the events of the film, and his mum remarries to a careless two-dimensional a-hole. He gets bullied in school, and it turns out he has some supernatural abilities. And not only does this film have some of these tropes, but it tends to have some connections to his other stories. There's a scene earlier on in the beginning of the film where Jake has a meeting with his psychiatrist, and in the psychiatrist's office there is a picture of the Overlook Hotel from Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining. In another scene, Jake and Roland are going through a forest and they go past a rundown carnival with the words Pennywise written in big red letters. There's even a scene where Jake and Roland teleport to another part of Midworld, and the code to get there is 1408. You know, just like that film starring John Cusack that was released 10 years ago that was also based on another Stephen King story. What was the name of that film again? There's also a big plot point where Jake and Roland visit a village, and Jake is being taught by a seer who teaches him how to shine. Sound familiar?
You wanna get sued?
The references to King's other work turned into a major distraction to me as the film becomes self-referential in terms of its inside jokes, including a scene where Roland and Jake walk past the King's Jeweller's shop in New York. You know, like Stephen King, the guy who wrote the series The Dark Tower. The genre is a hybrid of science fantasy, western and horror. However, the horror elements did not affect me in any way. I was not scared by the creatures that Roland and Jake encounter in Midworld. It is dull in some parts, in scenes where the characters are just talking, with some of the dialogue going over my head, and the performances by the supporting characters did not leave enough of an impact on me. Earle Haley has a part in it, but, you know, he was fine. I went into this film thinking that it was a straight-up adaptation of the first book, The Gunslinger. However, upon conducting research for the film, I found that this film is a follow-up to the book series. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything, but, you know, if you have read all 8 of the novels, then you'll know what I mean. The film will also be a setup to a future TV series premiering next year, being adapted from the 1st, 4th and 8th books of the series, as well as a sequel to this film adapted from the 2nd book, The Drawing of the Three. This film currently has a 16% rating on Rotten Tomatoes with an average rating of 3.4 out of 5. As of today's date, August the 20th, 2017, the film has grossed $41.6 million in America and Canada and $30.2 million in other countries, totaling to a worldwide gross of $71.8 million against a production budget of $60 million. So in conclusion, The Dark Tower is fine. It's nothing special, but it may anger fans who had been so engrossed in the book series. The acting was okay, Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey were fine, Tom Taylor was okay. The film becomes so distracted in its references to previous Stephen King stories. The dialogue is a little confusing, and the film feels dull in some parts. It's nothing that is worth going to see at the cinema. Rent it, stream it on Netflix, or watch it on Sky Movies. Hopefully, the new It film will be amazing and way better than this. I give this film a 4 out of 10. This is Sean Bradley signing out. I'll see you later. Bye.